Let me share this with you. This is an article published by Cybercrime Magazine, and the article is dated May 24, 2023. They're saying that based on the cost that is to be incurred from cybercrimes in 2023, if cybercrime were a country, that it would rank third, and that is after the USA, China, and that it will come in third place. And they're saying that the value of the damages inflicted by cybercrime, it would cost $8 trillion US. Welcome to Cybersecurity 101. This is part 1 of a part 4 series in which I'm going to be sharing with you critical information to assist you to protect yourself and your digital assets against the various cybersecurity threats that exist. In this introductory video, we'll explore the fundamentals of cybersecurity, empowering you to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of digital threats. Hey, I'm Roger, and welcome back to my channel. Let's get started on this journey to a safer online world. Let's jump right into the video.
With tremendous improvement in broadband speed and given improvement too in other technology, the gadgets that we have, there is no that much more persons who are connected online than what we would have seen in any previous time in history. Bear in mind too that the average person you'll find having in the region of 2 to 3, perhaps even 4 devices that they use to connect to the web. Now, cybersecurity, essentially, it is a discipline, I would say. It encompasses a lot of things. So it looks at protecting digital systems, digital assets, your networks, devices, data, your applications that run on these networks from unauthorized access, theft, damage, disruption, or any other malicious acts. And this essentially is achieved through using, through having a multifaceted approach. So there are techniques, technologies, processes, policies, yes, that are designed to secure these IT infrastructures, the services that use them, and the applications also that use them against cyber threats. So, as you would have gathered from what I just mentioned, cybersecurity is multifaceted. The range is quite extensive. So it encompasses network security, the security of the applications that run on these devices and the networks, the information. It includes cloud security, mobile security. So here now, the mobile devices that we move around with, the iPads, the iPhones, right? IoT security also, the Internet of Things, because you know that where we are now. Also, we have all of these gadgets, all of these devices, the smart cars, the smart refrigerators, smart TVs, you name them, that are also part of the network. So it includes cybersecurity, now encompasses looking at all of these players. So why really is cybersecurity important, you may be wondering? Now I want you to pay keen attention to what I'm going to share with you next. This is a review done by PacketLabs.net, and they're saying that back in 2022, so this is a cybersecurity statistics review of 2022, they're saying that there were an estimated 2,200 cyber attacks per day. Additionally, 255 million phishing attacks occurred within a 6-month span, and there were over 853,000 domain names that had reported that there was some phishing attempt on their domain, on their resources. Now, turning our attention to some stats for 2023. I remember I mentioned that this article published April 27, 2023. They're saying that there would have been an estimated 800,000 cyber attacks. But this is per year in 2023. I figure that it may have been up to that period. But look here also, every 30 seconds, based on this report, threat actor targets a business security infrastructure every 30 seconds, people. And there is an estimated 300,000 new malware that are created every single day. Cybersecurity is important because we need to be able to prevent, we need to be able to mitigate these cyber attacks. Also, companies have to be compliant with various regulatory bodies. For instance, there is the Information Technology Act of 2000, which is designed to protect intellectual property, and that would encompass, protection against theft and unauthorized access. So companies do have an obligation by law to act in a particular way, which would prevent their systems from being breached, and as a result, their data, that is the data of their customers, your clients, being compromised. Also, cybersecurity is important because we all have a responsibility to protect our sensitive data, and also we need to protect those critical infrastructure. Remember too that a lot of systems now are actually managed by systems online, remotely too. So there are power grids, there are transportation systems that are a part of networks across the world, and so they have to, in the best interest of the public and the companies, they have to ensure that they are essentially working in a way, having the systems and procedures, the backup plans, the contingencies in place to prevent their systems from being breached. No, the impact is really very much far-reaching. There is the possibility of financial loss. So looking at companies now, businesses, there's a possibility of financial loss, and that is, loss to both individuals and the businesses. Because look at it now, financial institution being hacked, and people, the customers losing their money. It is going to affect them, yes. It is going to affect the bank. The bank will have to find those monies now to replace. Okay, I will see this happen from time to time because from time to time persons, monies and persons' bank accounts are scammed, and it does put people in a very precarious situation. Sometimes it may be the only monies that they may have access to at that particular time. And the banks too, they will take some time to do their investigation before the customer is able to get back his or her funds. Alright, data breaches is another thing. And we know about this, we hear it from time to time, Yahoo, Twitter, all of these big companies, from time to time we hear about there being breaches and people's personal information leaking into the public space. Alright, so there is a possibility of reputational damage, legal liabilities too, because companies can be sued, and there's also the possibility of loss of business, because persons may choose not to do business with that entity anymore as a result of those issues. There's also identity theft, and we know too about this, that these are really real situations, that there are persons who will compromise people's accounts online. They will get a hold of their personal data and they will fake their identity. Alright, so there's identity theft. There's also business disruption. Now, when you find a system being compromised, for instance, I believe it was 2021 here in Jamaica, there's a particular financial institute, no, not financial institution, a particular ministry of government that, it was so hush because it really didn't come out in the public space, and they kind of put it away that it didn't seem as bad as it was, right? I think it was an attempt to cover up a bit, but the essence of it is that there was it was a ransomware attack where whomever had compromised this government department, and was demanding some payment. I'm not even really sure how it played out, but this is an issue. Bear in mind too that when you have a situation like that, the unscrupulous persons or groups, they have exclusive access to your databases or to your resources. You can't do anything within that time, right? Your hands are basically tied. Also, there is the regulatory compliance. So as I mentioned, there are laws which govern how we should also use the internet space, and there are also penalties that can be leveled against persons should they act in a negligent way where this is concerned. Next, we're going to be looking at some types of cyber threats, and firstly, I have here malware, and malware is a malicious app that is designed to get onto your system, and it will do different things. You may, for instance, disrupt the operations of your computer, your database, or to cause damage. There's also phishing and social engineering. So here now we're looking at those unscrupulous persons who will try to pretend as if they are some legitimate person or representing some company that you are affiliated with, in an attempt to extract whether information or money from you. This is quite serious. We find this a lot happening with people's banking activities. There's also ransomware that I mentioned before, where again you have hackers gaining control of a company's infrastructure, and they will hold the company ransom, their database, for instance, ransom, until their demand is met. Then we have denial of service. Now here with denial of service, it is where again you have those unscrupulous persons, the hackers, and what they basically do is shut down access to, for instance, a company's network or their website, so they actually make it inaccessible to the legitimate users. Identity theft, we know well about this. Again, they will steal your identity. Use, for instance, your credit card information online to make purchases. Cyberbullying is another issue. There's also online scams, and there are a lot of this, especially within recent times. Data breaches. Then there is the man in the middle, and with the man in the middle now, here again, you have these unscrupulous persons, the hackers. They position themselves strategically between the, let us say, A and B. So A being the sender, B being the receiver. So they position themselves in the middle, and the whole purpose of that is to be able to intercept messages which are being transmitted between the two parties. And finally, we have something which is quite prevalent now, which is AI clones or AI phishing, where again they will take a person's voice, for instance, and re-engineer it and put out content making it appear that it is legitimately from a particular individual when it is not. Or where we have in the music industry, for instance, we see with that song that was reported to have been put out by Drake, done by Drake. All right, which was purely AI generated by this guy who called himself Ghostwriter. All right, so these are some types of cyber threats that we have to contend with here currently in 2023 going forward. Now, the consequences of cyber attacks on businesses and individuals can be far-reaching. So there is a possibility of financial loss, as I mentioned before, data theft. There is business disruption. The business may have to be shut down for a while they try to remedy or rectify the situation. This, in a sense, will cause delays to customers. There's also reputational damage and legal consequences. Now, what are some best practices that you can employ for staying safe while you are online? Firstly, you can consider ensuring that the software, those apps that you use, along with the operating system, that they are kept up to date. So, make sure that you have the latest patches and updates, which will fix, any holes or compromise that may exist in them. You can also avoid opening suspicious emails and clicking on links that you are not sure about. Additionally, use strong passwords, and you know the rule already. So make sure that your password is minimum 8 characters in length, and it is best to use uppercase and lowercase. So you have different combinations of characters here now. So you have uppercase, lowercase, you have special characters. Stay away from using the names of persons that are close to you, date of births and so forth. Keep away from those things. There's also two-factor authentication, where to log on to an account or to a device, you may be required to use two different methods of authentication. You can also install and configure your antivirus and the firewall. So many times, even myself working on systems, you find that a person may have an antivirus software installed, but guess what? It is out of date. It may be a year or two or even more in some situations out of date. If you have a firewall installed, it is not only important to have it installed, it has to be properly configured. You also should keep abreast of current threats and best practices, so you know how to protect yourself against these threats, and also make sure that you have a secure internet connection. One other thing too is that it is not really a good idea to use the internet in public spaces, especially for very personal and private stuff, like doing your banking transactions. That's definitely a no-no. And you should also back up your data regularly. And finally, these here are some resources and tools that you can employ or should employ as you use the online space. Now, especially if you're working in an organization, it is most critical to ensure that whoever is in charge, the IT department, the managers, that they have regular training for their staff, which will sensitize them to current, the latest threats that exist, and also best practices, how to use the company's infrastructure, not only the company's resources, but also how they should be, best practices while even, using their personal devices. Antivirus software and anti-malware software are also a must, and of course, your firewall. These are a must on your devices, especially if you are operating within a business space. Password manager is also a tool that is quite handy, because with the password manager you're able to generate passwords, and normally these passwords are really very much complex, and it also saves the password, because to really be something to remember these lengthy passwords that the characters are all over the place. A VPN, virtual private network, is also an asset, especially again for business places. So this is now a secure tunnel that persons would use, especially if they're working remotely, that they would use to gain access to and to transmit messages and resources between the system that they're using externally and their workplace's network. We also have web application firewall, and with a web application firewall, it is a firewall rather that monitors HTTP traffic that is generated on a network. Two-factor authentication, I mentioned this previously in the previous slide. So here, you use two different methods to authenticate of authentication. So you may have, for instance, you use some biometric method. It may be a fingerprint or a face scan, along with a password, for instance, or it may be a PIN and a password, that kind of thing. Another security resource that is, and this this is used quite a bit by those, especially those large companies. This is the security information and management, security information and event management system. This it is really being proactive here now. So you have a security system in place that is really designed to recognize potential threats and to nip it in the bud before it becomes a reality. Incident response tools. So here you again you find that those big companies will have these implements in place, but it is also good for you as an individual to have contingencies in place, to have systems and procedures, to have plans which dictate how you will respond should you have a breach. So with an incident response tool, it is, yes, that system which defines how you're going to be responding to a breach, what is going to happen, who are the players, the key players who are going to intervene to arrest the situation. And of course, it also speaks to the systems and procedures which will kick in such an eventuality. And finally, we have penetration testing tools. So here now, there are tools out there, as well as you can have a penetration tester who will try to breach your security system, breach your network, to see just how strong it is. The good thing about it is that they are able to pick up weaknesses in your security system and to be able to make recommendations to you as to how you can improve on the security system. All right, so that concludes this introduction looking at cybersecurity. As I mentioned, this is one of a 4-part series looking at cybersecurity. All right, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. My name is Roger. See you again in the next videos. Take care.